And welcome to Brenton's Question of the Week. Questions that collectors think about but don't always ask. So last week's question, what factors do you consider before buying a collectible? And here are some of the responses from the community. Vintage Rebellion said, the number one factor I consider when buying a collectible is how do I feel about the source media. If it's not Criterion Collection, life-changing material, I don't have time for its ancillary products. Stephen Finkolia said, for me, it's three things. A, is the character I collect? Is it a character that I collect and don't already have? B, do I have display space or will I need to buy more Maji cases in order to fit it in? And C, when I kick the bucket, will my heirs appreciate this statue? I don't typically sell statues. I have over 160 quarter scale statues and I love them all. And I blame Mr. X, Gem Mint, Carl Sobs, and Toys on Throne. I don't buy for the purpose of reselling, though I have resold, given away 9 statues in the past 3 years. For me, this is a passion that takes me back to childhood when I would disappear into comics. I don't collect just because some commissioner is looking to sell their wares. I literally think about my collection and fathom whether a new upcoming release will work for me. While I don't typically upscale my statues, recent X-Men releases versus Sentinels have caused me to crank open my wallet and replace original Sideshow X-Men statues I have. A new Reborn Studios Thanos on Throne also did just that, and he's now part of my happy collection. Thanks for your videos and thought-provoking questions. Well, you're welcome, Stephen. Mojo Potato said, the first thing I consider is if it fits the scheme of my display. Then I want to make sure I have the space for it. I want to make sure the seller that I'm buying from is dependable in case anything goes wrong. The price does play a factor, but if I want something bad enough, I tend to find a way to make it happen, whether working extra hours or cutting back in other areas. Knight said, so many pieces, more so than monies. Does it go with my theme? Then more importantly, do I have space for it? If it doesn't check these boxes, it's a no-go. I'll just instigate others to buy it. LOL. Yelena Rakic said, for us is always shipping, nothing else. Cost of the statue is cost of the statue, but shipping and import taxes are something that give us reason to stop collecting bigger pieces further. In the future, we'll only watch and admire from afar. So thank you all for the great responses. And this week I've been thinking about, have you seen anything at Singapore Comic-Con that you'd consider buying? And I know XM has shown us some new statues there, and they've gotten some flack for some of the stuff that they've shown. But I think one that really stuck out to me personally was the Absolute Carnage Spider-Man. Now, I know we've seen this prior to the Singapore Comic-Con, but that statue, you know, there's just something about it. I love the spider sense above Spidey's head. I feel like that's a really unique thing to do that we typically don't see in Spider-Man statues. And I think it's a great addition to the statue. You know, looking at the Absolute Carnage storyline, I don't feel like it's not really a Spider-Man story. I feel like this is all tied in more to a Venom story with, you know, the King in Black stuff and the bad guy that showed up, Null. So I think this is all more related to Venom, and I don't think it fits, you know, necessarily more Spider-Man-ish. You know, it gives me reason to pause on pulling the trigger on it because, you know, Spider-Man was kind of just like shoehorned into stuff with this whole storyline because, you know, Null controlling all the symbiotes and this and that, you know, that's kind of what happened to Carnage. And then every book at Marvel at the time was pulled into a one-shot for, you know, the Absolute Carnage event. And you know how Marvel does. They just throw events around like it's nobody's business. And, you know, I don't know how much it actually relates to Spider-Man. So it's something I've been thinking about. The statue really intrigues me. The source material, I'm not sure if it's worth, you know, paying for the statue for that. But it's something I'll consider thinking about. And then we saw the symbiote Spider-Man that XM has finally shown us, and I have some thoughts about that, where the Spider-Man himself, I think, looks good. It's painted well, but the base, to me, it just looks a little off. Like, for some reason, they used a different painting technique to make it more comic or cartoony, and like a little bit of cell shading, because the bricks look awfully strange to me. The way the webbing is done looks a little strange, and I just feel like the base and the character don't match with the paint scheme. So I'm not sure what XM was going for there. And I feel like they're inspired by that Web of Spider-Man #1 comic cover, where it had the black suit, kind of on the edge of a building with some smoke around it. I could see where they pulled some inspiration from, maybe from that comic cover. So thank you for watching. Please feel free to answer in the comments and come back next week to hear what other collectors had to say and for another hard-hitting question.